yeah, just this matchup in general, I'm not quite sure how this is going to go. It looks like Andrew is going to get to go first here. We see Ultra Ball away, a Guzma, and a Switch. Started a Rayquaza. One of the things we were kind of talking about with this matchup is I think he wants to really focus on his one prizers. He does play 3 copies of Shining Lugia in his deck list. Andrew was one of the biggest advocates for Shining Lugia. Once that card kind of came to the forefront, people realized it was a good card. He's really been an advocate for it, and it's paid off here. Got him today too. I think he's really going to want to utilize those one prizers, the Vikavolts and the Shining Lugias, in this matchup against Shrine of Punishments.
Yeah, definitely. He was telling us yesterday that when he saw that card, he told all of his friends to start buying it because he knew that it was not a $5 card. So he scooped up plenty of them, and it has rewarded him with a day 2 berth. So, unfortunately, he has the 2 GXs in play, but grabs a Grubbin and Marshadow with that Let Loose ability off of this first fan club.
Yeah, it's interesting. So he's deciding to go with the Let Loose, wants to disrupt Brandon here a little bit, maybe stick him with a not great set of 4 cards going second, and maybe steal a quick one here. We'll see what else he has to follow up this Marshadow in his hand, or if he's just going to go ahead and play it down. He does have an energy, going to attach it and pass. Okay, so he's going to hold off on the Marshadow for now.
Yeah. The thing is, he doesn't want Ray in the matchup, but, Ray does so much damage so fast that he'll just go with it. And Brandon's deck kind of takes a while to get going with its damage spread. So if he keeps his bench low, he can definitely still take advantage of the Ray.
Absolutely. So we see Mysterious Treasure gets rid of a Psychic Energy. Brandon brings an Inkay to the front of his deck immediately, and that's really what you want to see as the Malamar deck on these first couple of turns, is just getting your Inkays in play so that you can set up Malamars to have access to Psychic Recharge later on in the game. And Brandon's also playing a couple copies of that Shining Lugia we were just talking about with Andrew Mahone's deck.
Yeah, some real Power 1 stuff going on here.
It looks like I do see the Lugia in his hands.
Brandon is actually eyeing a Judge as well, so one of them was going to do it. Yeah. Brandon is the first one.
I think Brandon's like, I'm not going to let you get me down to just 4. I'm going to try to disrupt you. And judging against a Vikavolt deck on turn 1 is really strong. These decks need to hit their Vikavolts as quick as possible. They need a lot of cards to pull off that combo, so limiting them to 4 cards really limits their options. And unfortunately for Andrew as well, he attached a Lightning as opposed to a Grass. He didn't have a Grass energy last turn, so he's going to need to find a Grass energy if he wants to Tempest GX out of this low card hand.
Yeah, definitely. On the flip side, if he does find that Grass energy, Vika Ray is probably one of the best decks to get out of a Judge.
Absolutely.
Because Tempest is one of the strongest GX attacks in the game right now.
See what else Brandon has. Looks like nothing else, just a pass over to Andrew. Didn't find any other Pokemon he wanted to put down. Right away from Andrew, we see the Grass Energy.
I see a Cynthia, I think.
Actually, looks like there's a rare candy as well, but I don't see a Vikavolt right now.
He's eyeing this. He puts another Ray down, so I think maybe he doesn't know which kind of Malamar deck it is. Maybe he thinks it's just a regular Ultra Necrozma or something. But
yeah, he may not be aware of what exactly Brandon's deck is, and maybe Brandon. I thought I saw Shining Lugia in that first hand, but maybe he's waiting to put it down. I think that might have been a little bit of a giveaway as to what the deck was. So yeah, just kind of holding off there. Let's see if Andrew can find a Vikavolt this turn. Needs Rare Candy plus either an Ultra Ball or the Vikavolt. I don't quite see it in his hand. He could use Tempest GX this turn. Looks like he's debating putting down another Rayquaza. There's no energy in his discard pile, so I think he's debating, if I put this down, do I want to use Stormy Winds? Looks like he's opting not to. And we just see Tempest GX right away.
Yeah, unfortunately for Mahone, he doesn't really have any way to get rid of a Shrine. So these 4 GXs in play are going to start getting punished by a Shrine if Brandon can get them. But Brandon doesn't have a lot of cards after that Judge, so we'll see what he can do here.
See an Escape Rope right away, going to force Mahone to switch one of his Pokemon. And Judge, once again, man, following up a Judge after a Tempest GX is exactly what you want to do as the Marshadow player in Brandon's, as the Malamar player in Brandon's situation. And he does. It looks like he does just play 2 copies of the card, so he was able to find the second judge off of his initial judge. So that really works off and pays off for Brandon here, and could really limit what Mahone is able to do this game if he can't find that vehicle soon.
The downside to this is that he's played these judge and he's disrupted Mahone, but he's not really doing anything. He only has 2 Inkay, so with only seeing 4 cards, we see a Shining Lugia, but he's gonna need a lot more. And Mahone is at a point where like Guzma is gonna start to, he just needs Guzma energy now to start attacking. So Brennan plays that Shrine, and now Mahone probably realizes what this Malamar deck is. Probably wishes he didn't have all 3 of these Ray in play.
I see a rare candy in his hand. Is there a Vikavolt, though? He could use Lele to find Volkner to get him the Ultra Ball he needs. Looks like that might be what he's thinking of doing. Looks like he'll go ahead, use Wonder Tag. Does grab Volkner. He can also get the Lightning Energy out of the deck he wants this turn. And Ultra Ball should be finding a Vikavolt here. That Volkner goes to the discard pile, not to your hand, Mahone. There we go.
Would be a pretty good supporter if it did that.
Don't actually discard the supporter when you play it. Oh, but it looks like he's having to get rid of a Guzma here with this.
I think he's on Marshadow instead.
He's actually going to get rid of Lugia and Marshadow. Okay.
Yeah, he figures his bench is full.
Sure.
Not really going to get use out of the Marshadow. And now, he's got these 4 GXs in place, so he's on a pretty fast clock with that Shrine. So I guess he's probably figuring he's got to just win quick. If he can just take out, some Malamars, stop Brandon from streaming these spreading attackers,
sure,
he might be able to just overwhelm him.
Yeah, and Andrew will be able to get Rare Candy into Vikavolt and get the energy he needs in play in order to start taking knockouts. Like we said, Dragon Break doing 150 damage already. Such a powerful attack on Rayquaza GX.
Yeah, 4 went out for Inkay here because going to the discard, Brandon has double colorless, so he has a way to attack with his Lugia next turn if he needs to. And with this Shrine, that Shrine's not going anywhere. So eventually, this is really going to start to add up for Mahone.
Yep, Mahone does take the first prize of the game, but it is going to be a long one for him to try to take 6 prizes. Yeah, definitely going to be an uphill battle, I think, for Mahone. Brandon here plays an Acrobike, sees a Coco, not sure what the other card was. I think he does have a Lily in his hand as well, so he will be able to draw out of his low hand size, which is great.
I think that was an Inkay that he took, and a Lily for 6.
Exactly what you wanted to see is Brandon. See if he can find a double colorless energy, can start using Argent Wing. Would hit for 120 damage on this Rayquaza, and while the Lugia would get knocked out in return, it's definitely still great value when you're trading 2 prizes for 1.
Yeah, I don't see a double. I think I only see a Psychic in his hand, and I don't see another attacker. There's a Stretcher, so...
His Stretcher, he also has an Escape Rope. I wonder if he could open up some sort of plays with that. Looks like he's using Mysterious Treasure. Going to discard the Sudowoodo. I think at this point, Mahone has put so many GXs in play. He wants to have that damage continue to spread. Does not want Sudowoodo to limit the damage he's going to be able to put out.
Yeah, definitely. So if I'm Brandon, I mean, he doesn't have a supporter in his hand, I don't think. So,
there's no copy of Tapu Lele GX in his deck, unfortunately. But he's also at a point where things like Necrozma GX and the Tapu Lele promo are going to become extremely threatening later on in the game to Andrew Mahone.
Yeah.
It looks like he's eyeing up Mimikyu, which is interesting. If he doesn't have a great hand, he does have an Escape Rope in his hand, so what he might do is Psychic Recharge to the Mimikyu, play Escape Rope, and then use Filch to try to draw a couple of cards.
Yep.
So I think that's a pretty smart play from Brandon here. He doesn't really care about giving up the Mimikyu. He's never going to be able to effectively use Copycat. He's also putting a Coco in his hand. Maybe he's looking to do some flying flips.
Yep. He has that attach for turn as well in his hand. Maybe he just wants the Coco because it has free retreat, which is super powerful.
It gives you a lot of mobility for sure.
Right. We've been seeing Coco used for its free retreat a lot in this tournament just because it's such a powerful basic. Looks like he is...
Oh, he actually can attack with the Lugia here if he wanted to, but he'd leave himself with no cards in hand, or with just the Mimikyu in hand, so it's kind of an interesting spot. Maybe would have liked to have seen him utilize Filch, but I think going in with the Lugia here You just assume that you'll be able to draw the cards you need at some point, right? And you're already spreading so much damage.
Yeah. In addition, I mean, this Rayquaza, will be knocked out here in just a couple turns. So he figures he'll get some cards off of his prizes as well.
Mm.
So kind of just wants to put Mahone on a way faster clock. Mahone still, of course, has to take 5 prizes. So got a
Yeah,
ways to
and
go.
the way it's set up as well for the damage, Mahone goes up, going into Brandon's turn now, up to 160 damage. It'll be 170 moving into Mahone's next turn. Coming back to Brandon, that means that Rayquaza will be knocked out after Mahone's next turn, which sets up some numbers great. And looks like he just draws the Cynthia off the top. Wow.
Perfect. That's the right play right there. You want to top a Cynthia with no other cards in your hand. And here, if I'm Brandon, I kind of can do whatever I want here. Maybe you retreat into the Mimikyu and just draw more cards with this because you have those Shrine Ticks. You could just use Cocoa Spread and just knock this out and keep pushing more damage.
Yeah.
There's a lot that he can do.
You could even use Inkei's Hypnosis, even try to buy a turn potentially. I could see a play like that.
Yep.
I think he's set the damage up now to where if this Rayquaza faints going back into, or gets knocked out going back into Brandon's turn, he's going to be in a really good spot. So maybe he wants to magical swap here. That looks like what he's eyeing up.
Yeah, it looks like there is 15 on the bench.
Mahone
And
sees
Mahone
the
just
Lele.
sees
Oh,
it and
wow.
is instantly conceding. So Mahone realizes now, obviously, what this Malamar deck is. Probably won't be seeing 4 GX Pokemon in play for Mahone next game. Probably going to prioritize those Lugias this time. But he figured because he had all of them, just try and win as fast as you can.
Yeah, and you saw that Brandon was thinking about benching the Lele promo, didn't decide to do it, but Mahone just said, "Oh, you have that in your deck. I'm gonna lose this game. I'm gonna concede. I want to make sure I have time for 2 full good games." So very smart play to go ahead and just scoop this game up, accept that it's lost, and try to make sure you have time for 2 more games as Andrew.
Yeah, the season has only just begun, but we've already kind of seen, a big meta shift. Vika Ray, Mahone's deck, was the big deck going into the season. And then after Brazil last week, we saw decks like Brandon's with these Shrine decks. And Vika Ray really struggles to deal with those. There's not a lot of space in the decks for counter stadiums or field blowers. So we've seen players opting for that Delmise, or in Mahone's case, the Shining Lugia. So we'll see how he can use those in this next game.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a total change of strategy from Mahone in this game. We're going to see him bench as few GX Pokemon as possible and really focus on using those Shining Lugias and even attacking with Vikavolt potentially. Just those are the 2 things he wants to focus on. I think ideally for Mahone, you don't even ever start GX, so you never even have to put one in play. It can be tough. Sometimes you have to use Lele to find a supporter, but hopefully Mahone can utilize that strategy. Well played by Brandon in that first game as well. He was able to execute his strategy basically perfectly and able to take a game off Mahone.
Yep. So Vikavolt can do 150 damage, which will knock out all of Brandon's 1 prize attackers. But Brandon does have a copy of Necrozma GX, which can fight back there. So he starts a Ray, not what he wants, but that'll be the only Ray that hits the board this game, I imagine.
Does need to find a way to get a Grubbin in play. That's the most important thing is this Vikavolt deck on your first turn. It looks like he does have an Ultra Ball, just having to eye up what he wants to discard.
He's got a Grass as well, so he can't Tempest in the next turn to set up, a bunch of these Vikavolt. So we'll see what he wants to do.
I've seen a lot of these Malamar decks not playing Judge, but Brandon really, when he's building his deck, he just wanted to have a way to respond to big things like Tempest GX, 2 large hand sizes in this format without N. So playing 2 copies of Judge has definitely paid off in that first game. I'm sure it's paid off for him throughout the tournament in general.
Yeah, definitely. The thing is we talked about how it was a slow start for him, but the way his deck works against Mahone's, he doesn't really care how long it takes. He knows it's kind of inevitable with those Shrine Ticks. So
I'm not quite sure. I can't totally tell, but it looks like I saw some yellow Pokemon and something that looked like a rare candy in Mahone's hand. So he may have rare candy Vikavolt. I think that card on the left might be a rare candy. Not totally sure, but he is just going to go ahead and grab a Grubbin here to start things off.
Yeah, so he'll have a decent turn too. He doesn't have a supporter though, I don't think. So he can at least Tempest, I suppose, get a fresh Tempest. Maybe not even discard anything.
Yeah, so getting that Grubbin turn 1, exactly what you want to do. Probably just attach an energy, and that'll be just about all he wants on his first turn.
Yeah.
To Brandon's side, we'll see if he can find some Inkays to get into play. We see that Necrozma GX in his hand. I think you don't really want to use Necrozma GX, or put it in play, I suppose, until you're going to use it. Even though it is very good against Andrew's deck, you just want to kind of hold off until it's going to come into play. Already, I see a Judge in Brandon's hand.
Yeah, I also see a double colorless in his hand, so he can actually attach to this Coco and start using Flying Flip immediately if he wants. Or like if he can find a Lugia with his hand, and he can get that in play. Looking at that Inkay, and I think I saw Mimikyu as well. He's probably just checking his deck. He sees the Tapu Lele is in there.
It seems like he was also eyeing up the Deoxys from Celestial Storm. Has Psychic, it does 20 damage plus 20 more for each energy attached. So that's actually something that can come in as a pretty solid attacker for just one single energy attachment later on. So that's something to consider for sure.
Looks like Cynthia, I think, is his other supporter. Or maybe it's a Guzma.
Oh, and this is actually pretty
it's an escape
smart.
route.
Okay. And he still has a supporter to play for turn. Gonna be a Cynthia. Pretty smart play here from Brandon. Gonna bring up that Inkay. Mahone does play 2 copies of Switch, but now he's really forcing Andrew to find them.
Yeah, Mahone also, he has the perfect cards for turn 2 Vikavolt, but he doesn't really have much else. So, he'd like to find a way to get this Grubbin out of there. It's weird. Like, the Vikavolt line has an insanely high retreat cost throughout the whole line, which is, they're bugs. So I guess it's probably because they're gross and they don't want them moving around a bunch.
Off of this Cynthia, don't see another Inkay. There is a Mysterious Treasure though, so he could find one, and I do see a Judge, so he does have a response to a Tempest GX from Andrew. He's gonna discard this Psychic Energy. You want to get some in the discard pile so you can utilize Psychic Recharge, but you don't want to discard too many energies, right? You can't get all of them back if they all get to the discard pile. So you want to have access to them in your deck still for sure.
I mean, this is a really, really good first turn from Brandon.
Oh, yeah.
2 Inkay, he's attacking. He disrupted Mahone with that big escape rope play. So this is going, just as well for Brandon as he'd like.
Yeah, Flying Flip here does put some pressure on Andrew. Top deck looks like another Vikavolt. Strong Charge is going to come out. I think we could maybe see him split his energy up, one on the Vikavolt, one on the Rayquaza, or he could just put both on the Vikavolt, maybe if he wants to attack with the Vikavolt next turn. Looks like he's going to opt to go that route.
Yeah, and so now, Brandon has, if this Vikavolt is trapped active, Brandon has that Necrozma GX in his hand. On this next turn, if he can find some Malamar and another Psychic Energy, he can actually knock this out with the Necrozma, leaving Mahone with just a single Rayquaza. So, I don't know what Mahone is going to do.
Yeah, it's definitely kind of a tough spot. Looks like it's just got to be a pass over to Brandon's side of the field. I think if I'm Brandon, I might want to go aggressive like you were just saying. Try to get a Prismatic Burst knockout. He's eyeing it up. He brought it to the front of his hand. But even, no, Shiny Lugia couldn't quite knock out the Vikavolt. It's got 20 damage on it, so he put it up to 140 after an Argent Wings. Looks like he's going to Lily draw a few cards.
He's an energy and a way to get a Malamar here. I
There's
see a Malamar and an energy.
Wow. Oh, no, I think it's an Inkay. I don't think it's a Malamar.
Oh.
Very close, but not exactly that part of the evolution chain he wanted to see.
Oh, that's unfortunate for Brandon. This could have been a kind of the turn to take over the game right now.
Absolutely.
So early, but Mahone probably breathing a small sigh of relief.
And he's still going to go ahead and charge up this Necrozma, try to get it ready to go next turn, and he can definitely still do a lot to disrupt Mahone. And, I mean, if Mahone, what's Mahone going to do on his next turn, right? Like, he can strong charge to the active, do 150 damage, but then after that, what happens, right?
Right.
So we're just going to see another Flying Flip.
I don't see what he topped. It looked like an Ultra Ball.
Okay, he can find a Tapu Lele GX here. Oh no, it's a Lily. I think he had the Ultra Ball in his hand. Yeah, it looks like a Lily that he drew for the turn. Gonna draw 4 cards off the top.
There's another Grubbin, that's good.
Yeah, okay, so Mahone, this is fine. And he gets a Cynthia as well for the next turn. I think this is actually totally fine for Mahone, what you want to go ahead and be seeing.
So he'll have an attach to the Ray. He can strong charge to this Vikavolt, knock out the Coco, put the Grubbin down, and he can set himself up for a response to that Necrozma on the next turn.
Yeah, he's got an Ultra Ball in his hand as well. I think he might be wanting to go for a Shining Lugia here, get that attachment there. Does discard a Vikavolt, though. I'm not too sure about that.
He also discards the Lele. I didn't see another supporter.
I think
in
he did have a Cynthia.
Okay.
I think he drew it off of the Lily. So I think I think he wants to start powering up Shining Lugia and have that option as an attacker. Maybe he'll even just strong charge directly to the Shining Lugia to power it up and kind of ignore this Coco for now.
Unfortunately, the Shining Lugia cannot attack the Necrozma. Necrozma's ability does protect it from colorless Pokemon.
Absolutely.
So Lugia won't be useful there, but he does have the Rayquaza as a check to that Necrozma. So
yeah, good heads up there. Necrozma's ability just not something that comes up very often, you know, like it's such a specific thing, prevent all damage done to it by colorless Pokemon, but it's definitely relevant here against Shining Lugia from Andrew.
yeah. He's eyeing 2 energy with the strong charge. It looks like he was thinking about putting them both onto the Vikavolt, you know, trying to take a prize, stop this spreading damage.
He might be spreading his energy around here. He actually could, okay, so he could retreat and then hit this Tapu Koko for 90, or he could retreat and Tempest here.
This is interesting. He doesn't knock out the Tapu Koko. If he just Tempests.
Oh, he might just be sending the Grubbin up to get knocked out. Oh, gonna send up Lugia, though. I think Mahone is just really not sure what he wants to do here. He's definitely in a tough spot.
Yeah. He played
Tempest GX.
Oh, interesting.
I don't think he ever shuffled his deck. Yeah, he's going to do that.
Okay.
Now. Okay. I thought he was trying to play the Cynthia
Yeah,
at first.
me
I was
too.
like real
Yeah.
worried. Yeah, he did play the Lily that turn, so he couldn't play the Cynthia. But he's going to Tempest GX here, discard the Cynthia, and draw a new hand.
This is interesting that he puts these energy on the Rayquaza because Brandon, he can knock it out with the Necrozma this next turn. And that's just all this energy gone off of Mahone's field, in addition to the 3 he discarded to retreat.
Yeah.
So this was a pretty expensive play.
And right there at the top of Brandon's hand, there it is, the Judge. So he has a response to this if he wants it. He top decks a Psychic Energy as well, so he just has so many options this turn. He can knock out this Rayquaza. Yeah, I really think, as you said, like maybe Mahone just wasn't sure what he wanted to do there. Maybe looking back at it, he wishes he had attached an energy to the Lugia. Maybe even keeping an energy on the Vikavolt, because that's what you need to attack into this Necrozma GX.
Yeah.
It just has the Judge. Man, that is really tough to see as Mahone, but exactly what Brandon wanted to see.
This Vikavolt deck, it has great acceleration with strong charge, and it has the energy recyclers, but that's not unlimited energy. And a lot of these Pokemon have big retreat costs, and they cost a lot of energy. So, Mahone can't afford to be too reckless with these energy.
Yeah. I mean, Vikavolt's attack discards 3 energy once you use it, so I mean, it's just a costly Pokemon in general.
Yeah.
But the trade-off there is that it just has such a powerful ability. So see 4 cards each from these players. Looks like there's a Shrine of Punishments from Brandon. Not going to do too much if he's planning on knocking out this Rayquaza. I could also maybe see just a Flying Flip this turn, just spread a little more damage. But no, here we go. Prismatic Burst coming up and going to take a knockout here, doing 190 damage to this Rayquaza.
A little bit of a throwback. Last season we saw some Malamar decks based around this Prismatic Burst Necrozma as its main attacker. He plays the Shrine down, so actually the only Pokemon that will get damaged is his Necrozma, which is interesting. Maybe he's trying to BM Mahone a little bit.
I think he just wants to get it out of his hands. I think he probably knows that a lot of these decks don't play stadiums or field blowers right now, so once it's in play, it's in play.
He also realizes that
the Lugia.
The only way that this Necrozma will get knocked out is if Mahone puts another Rayquaza into play, and then once he does that, it'll take Shrine damage. So interesting, but I mean Mahone has, he's got 5 cards in his hand. He has no energy in play. This Lugia can't attack the Necrozma. This is a a tough spot to be in if you're Mahone.
Yeah, absolutely. This Necrozma is going to be really tough for him to deal with, as you mentioned. It's going to have to be with Vikavolt, but it's such a costly attacker, as we said. And he also sent up this Lugia. He's discarded a Vikavolt, so finding his third Vikavolt is going to be a little difficult, I think. It looks like his only supporter in hand is a Pokemon fan club. He could maybe find Marshadow to refresh his hand if he doesn't have exactly what he wants. But yeah, this has just been kind of an uphill battle for Andrew. Brandon's done exactly what he's wanted both of these games, it seems. He's kind of employed two different strategies between the two games based on what Andrew has done. You know, Andrew had a lot of GXs in play in the first game, so he was able to just use Shrine of Punishments, use Shining Lugia. But here in the second game, when Andrew had a little bit of a slower start, he was able to, and Andrew was also more conscious of the Shrine of Punishments, not playing GXs down. He's able to be more aggressive with the Necrozma GX.
Yeah. He puts down another Shining Lugia, so he'll be able to fight every Pokemon on Brandon's side of the board except for this Necrozma. Obviously Brandon doesn't have like a Dawn Wings to keep attacking with the Necrozma.
Sure.
But Mahone can't one-shot anything.
Yeah.
So it's kind of an ugly two-shot game here. Do we see a Guzma in Mahone's hand?
I'm not sure.
He
did just play the fan club this turn as well. I think he's just kind of setting this up on the bench, so it's good. I think Andrew is being mindful of Necrozma's ability here. Doesn't want to attack it. Just waste an attack on it and attach energies to the active Pokemon. We'll see where he puts his 2 energy from Strong Charge, though. He does have an Ultra Ball, I think, so he could get a Lele next turn. I'm not sure what else he has.
It looks like he might be setting up for a Guzma play the next turn. Maybe, hopefully hope Brandon doesn't evolve one of those Inkay. Lugia could knock that out.
Yeah, can target down Malamar as well. Knock that out as an option. Could, if he gets one more energy, knock out Tapu Koko or Brandon's own Lugia. But yeah, we're just going to see a pass from Andrew over to Brandon.
There's an escape rope in Brandon's hand.
That
so
could be really
he'll
big.
be able to get this Necrozma out of the way.
Yeah, escape rope into Flying Flip Tapu Koko would let him use Psychic Recharge and potentially repower up this Necrozma to get back-to-back Prismatic Bursts.
Another thing for Mahone, when he was searching his deck with Strong Charge, I think I only saw 4 energy. Now, I think he has a Grass in his hand, but he's kind of running low on energy. He needs to find some energy recycler. He sends up this Grubbin, so Brandon kind of has a free turn to the Flying Flip.
Yeah, we could see him just take this turn to rebuild his board, maybe start powering up the Shining Lugia on Brandon's side, and then, as you said, just kind of take a turn, Flying Flip, spread a little more damage, make things easier to deal with.
Yeah. Brandon also kind of realizes these Shrine ticks on the Necrozma, they're, annoying, but the only thing that can attack is this Vikavolt, and Brandon probably realizing Mahone has gone through a lot of energy. So in order to respond with the Vikavolt, it's a pretty costly maneuver from Mahone. So Brandon, he's playing this matchup very, very well.
Absolutely. Yeah, Rayquaza Vikavolt was definitely a popular deck yesterday, so I'm sure Brandon's either tested against it or maybe even played one earlier in the tournament, and his knowledge of the matchup is showing up here.
Yeah, discards a Guzma and the Mimikyu. Mimikyu's not really going to do too much in this matchup.
Yeah, it can't really copy Rayquaza effectively. It could copy Lugia theoretically, but then it only has 70 HP. I think you'd rather just attack into a Lugia with your own Lugia.
It could also actually copy a Vikavolt,
sure.
And you discard those energy, but you have Malamar to get them back. So not terrible, but Brandon just has so much. He's way ahead in this game already.
I guess it could be a way to knock out Vikavolt with 150 HP. It might be his only way besides Prismatic Burst to knock out a Vikavolt with exactly 150 HP to copy that attack from Vikavolt. But this Vikavolt that Andrew has in play already has 40 damage on it.
Yeah. In addition, he has a Stretcher in his hand, so he can just go get that Mimikyu back.
So Flying Flip once again, spreading some more damage. Back over to Andrew's turn. Hoping, I think, for something off the top. Looks like he does have a Cynthia in his hand now. He may have drawn that for the turn. Looks like he's eyeing up an Ultra Ball. Now he's in a spot where he's going to need to find one of his 2 switch in the deck, I think, in order to have some relevant damage output this turn.
Yeah, if he Cynthias and finds a Candy Vikavolt, he could power up the active and knock out this Coco if he can't find this switch. But that's not really, that's such a massive investment to knock out a Tapu Koko.
Yeah, absolutely. Looks like Andrew's going to go ahead and debate attaching an energy here. Brandon did just Ultra Ball away a Guzma, so maybe he's thinking, okay, my Lugia might be safe for a turn. He did just get rid of one of his Guzmas.
Yeah, and this kind of all harkens back to that, this predicament Mahone is in all kind of harkens back to that turn where he opted to retreat the Vikavolt and then Tempest with that Ray with all those energies. And ever since then, he's kind of been starved for resources and in a pretty ugly board position.
Yeah, Brandon was able to respond to that with that Judge, and it just totally messed with what Mahone was able to do. It limited his options, and because of that, we've seen this kind of. I mean, this game has been a struggle. I mean, it's definitely not over, but it's going to be an uphill battle for Mahone. He's going to have to draw really well, and Brandon, has shown his intelligence in this matchup already, so I'm sure he's going to be playing it well throughout.
Yeah.
See an energy recycler in Andrew's hand now. He can put some more energies back into the deck. Not sure that he drew Rare Candy and a Vikavolt or an Ultra Ball. Before the Cynthia, he was debating playing an Ultra Ball. He opted to Cynthia it back into the deck, so I think he was thinking I could thin some of these cards out with Ultra Ball so that I don't draw them off the Cynthia, but at the same time, Ultra Ball is one of your outs to finding Vikavolt or finding Lele for a supporter later on, so I think he wanted to keep that in the deck to have that option later on, so that's a smart decision as well, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Debating whether or not to put in the third Grass or Lightning. Really mattered too much, I don't think.
Yeah, it's something that seems pretty minuscule, and honestly most of the time is, but I think it is important to analyze which one could be the true correct decision to make. Which one do you have more of in the deck still, because you can only get one Lightning and one Grass each turn with Vikavolt. The worst feeling is searching through the deck with a strong charge and seeing 2 Grass energies, no Lightnings. It's like, oh, I can't get full value out of this Vikavolt now. So, smart play to figure out which one is best for him to put back in the deck.
See a strong charge here. To guarantee an attack this turn, he can attach them both to Grubbin and pay to retreat it. Because I don't think I saw a switch in his hand. But doing that is getting pretty costly. He opts to put it on the second Lugia. I guess he doesn't feel too threatened by these flying flips, but, Brandon is fine just sitting here using flying flip every turn, if that means Mahone isn't doing anything.
Yeah, but I mean, also at the same time, just sitting here and flying flipping, it's also not really doing anything for Brandon. The damage doesn't, sure, it's adding up. I mean, I guess it can maybe pull off some magical swap plays with the Tapu Lele to just get this all this damage in play. But he's not gonna, I don't know, he's not gonna, take multiple prizes through flying flip. It just, I don't know, it kind of feels not exactly what he wants to be doing. And we're just going to see a Judge right away.
I don't know how many Psychic Energy are in Brandon's discard pile. So if he finds a double colorless off of this, and he does have Psychic Energy, he could retreat into the Lugia and knock out this Grubbin.
I believe, has he used both of his escape ropes? I think he has.
I think he has,
okay.
Yep.
I was going to say escape rope here would just be devastating to Mahone. There's nothing on his bench he would want to send up to put in harm's way, but I think thankfully, like we said, Brandon may be out.
It's an energy. He does have 2 Malamar, so if he has the energy in his discard pile, I guess he hasn't looked at his discard pile for a while, so I don't know what's in there.
Yeah, he could start attacking with Lugia here. Then he lets his Lugia get knocked out by the Coco. It's kind of a game of cat and mouse at this point. I think he doesn't really want to be the first one to attack with the Lugia. He wants to be able to respond to Andrew's Lugia. But regardless, I think it's definitely correct to start powering one of those attackers up, either the Lugia or the Necrozma.
He's eyeing that Psychic Energy to attach to Necrozma, but he just opts the Flying Flip again, and that Necrozma is starting to pick up as well.
We need to make sure we get one more damage counter on that Necrozma. Yep, there we go. And it's kind of interesting, with the 2 energies on this Necrozma, it's definitely becoming something that Brandon is going to have access to throughout the game. It's definitely becoming a threat for Andrew, so we see him already attaching to the Vikavolt because he knows he wants to have an answer to it if it comes up. See strong charge here. Gets 1 Grass, 1 Lightning out of the deck. Can attach them anywhere. He also has an Ultra Ball in hand, so he could find a Lele for a supporter, but I think he just really is wanting to avoid putting any GX Pokemon in play.
Strong Charge is just a Grass Energy.
He had a Lightning in the deck, didn't he?
I think so, yep.
So maybe he's just wanting to hold off for now. Does find a switch, that's exactly what he wants to see.
Finally.
Yeah, and he wants to keep the Lightning in the deck, so now he has options next turn. He can either Strong Charge back to the active Lugia so he can start using that second attack again, or he can Strong Charge to the Vikavolt so he can attack this Necrozma.
We see him top deck a Tapu Koko. That'll be useful. That's another Furrier Treater. That's that mobility we've been talking about that Koko gives. I don't know what the other Pokemon in his hand is. That might be the Lele.
I think it's a Deoxys from the new set.
Yep, you're right.
I think he also... he's had the Lele in his hand before in this game. I'm not sure if he does at this moment, but yeah, the Deoxys actually could be pretty good as well. It's a second attack, does 120 damage, discard an energy, so it's good value as well. Looks like he might be eyeing it up. Let's see where this energy attachment goes. Looks like he's going to Psychic Recharge to Deoxys.
Catch again, and he's actually just going to pay to retreat.
He's not quite knocking this Lugia out. He's hitting for 80 here.
This is interesting.
Does have one more Psychic Recharge after the retreat.
Wondering what he's thinking about doing here.
It looks like he's just going to hit for 80.
And he doesn't.
10 HP left on that Lugia. Maybe wanting to set something up with either Magical Swap or a Tapu Koko spread.
Yeah, you know, a Magical Swap here would actually, he'd be able to knock out both the Grubbin and the Vikavolt, but he didn't use Psychic Recharge last turn on, say, like that Inkay. So now he would need to find an energy to retreat the Inkay to do whatever he wants to do. So maybe he just forgot to do the second Psychic transfer.
Yeah, and it's interesting where this Shrine of Punishments has been in play for multiple turns now, and the only GX Pokemon that's taken any damage from it has been Brandon's Necrozma GX, and it is starting to add up. 70 damage on it makes it so that Mahone can like easily knock it out with the Vikavolt. So I think that might be what he wants to try to target down at some point here. It's definitely a threat, but he also needs to deal with the energy on this Deoxys.
At the same time, though, Mahone, you know, if he can, you know, he'll need to start, you know, kind of dancing around this and getting more energy and playing stuff, but he could actually just leave that Necrozma and eventually it'll just get knocked out. So if he can kind of dance around it, that'll be 2 prizes eventually coming down the pipeline. And maybe he's, you know, maybe he's thinking about that. Gaps for Ultra Ball for Lele here. Just refresh.
The Marshadow.
Or Marshadow, yeah. I'm sorry, yep.
Yeah, I think he was debating using Strong Charge before or after the Let Loose. I don't know how many energy he has left in his deck. He's also put a Lele to the front of his discard. Maybe he has a Stretcher in his hand. Not quite sure. He definitely wants to try to find that second energy recycler at some point. There's a lot of energy in his discard pile already.
Yeah.
He still has 5 prizes left.
Maybe he is thinking about using Lele for like a Volkner to find that recycler, and then he'll use the Marshadow to shuffle in. He's just looking at his deck right now with Strong Charge. I think those are his last 2 energy, right?
It looks like it, so he definitely wants to find Recycler if it's in the deck. Hopefully not prized for Andrew.
I didn't see it. He's also eyeing a, you know, he has that Lele, so maybe he could Guzma if he wanted.
He could also recognize, like, if he knows his other Recycler is prized, maybe he wants to Lele Guzma and try to take out this Necrozma just to drop prize cards. And I mean, maybe if it might not even necessarily be something that's prized that he wants, it might just be he wants to be more aggressive now.
Yeah.
At this point in the game, like, he's definitely on the back foot. He needs to do something to get ahead here and hopefully push his advantage. He does have that Marshadow in his hand. It looks like he's not going to opt to play it quite yet. It looks like he won't. He'll just go ahead, take a knockout. I believe Electro Cannon is Vikavolt's attack, and does get an energy card out of the prizes. Didn't see the other card, though. And Mahone's Lele should take 10 from the Shrine of Punishments. Looks like we caught that real fast. And Over to Brandon's turn. He can use Vikavolt, or he can use the second attack on Deoxys. Does 120 damage, so he just needs one more Psychic Energy, or even a double Colorless would work. It's Psychic Colorless is the cost on that attack. So he could take the knockout here on Vikavolt, which I think would be pretty strong. Andrew has already discarded one of his other two Vikavolts. And if there's no Vikavolt in the deck,
he also has access to that the Tapu Lele play that we talked about last turn.
Sure.
He could knock out both the Grubbin and this Vikavolt, or like the Vikavolt and that Lugia with the energy. So he has a way to take prizes this turn. It's unfortunate every time he plays a Mysterious Treasure, he doesn't have access to a supporter because it doesn't run Tapu Lele, and he hasn't played a supporter in a couple turns, I don't think.
He could actually knock out both of the Shining Lugias with the Tapu Lele, which would take both of the threats off the board, really. Like, sure, you don't get rid of the energy acceleration. I'm not sure. It's kind of a tough. He may have enough damage to where he can knock out Grubbin, Vikavolt, and a Shining Lugia. I'm not quite sure how much damage is in play. Looks like 290 damage, I believe.
That's what I see, yeah. So
he'll have some stuff to play with. Vikavolt has 150, the Lugia has 130, and Grubbin has 70, so I don't think he'd be able to knock out all three of those Pokemon. He could definitely knock out the Lele here if he wanted to just take two prizes, go down to two left. I think it would be smarter to take advantage of like some sort of board positioning here and try to limit, what Andrew has. So he's going to put one here on the Lugia. He's got a decent amount more damage to play with, though. 160, I believe, left.
So if he's going for the Lugia, I think maybe I would have liked to see him...
Oh, he can put 160 damage on the Lele, so it gets knocked out to the Shrine of Punishments, and he goes down to just one prize card remaining.
That's pretty good, too.
Wow,
That's
three prize turn from Brandon. That is huge. He doesn't take out the Vikavolt, but he goes down to just one prize card left, and he has Lugia in play, he has Deoxys in play. Finding this last prize shouldn't be too difficult from Brandon.
Yeah, definitely. His Lugia can knock out Andrew's Lugia, so he has, and he took a double off the prizes as well. And there's no N, so the worst Mahone could do is give him 5 fresh cards off of a judge. So Brandon's actually looking pretty good in this game. We're under 10 minutes left, but I don't expect this game to not finish before time.
Yeah, the only Pokemon that Andrew could like safely attack with and it be confident it wouldn't get knocked out would be the Vikavolt, and it's such a costly attacker. I have to discard 3 energies, so that's just not a winning strategy. He's not going to be able to take 3 prizes with Vikavolt with what he has left.
Mahone plays that Marshadow with the Let Loose ability, so he will judge Brandon, but now he needs to find a switch so he can at least start attacking. He does have access to Strong Charge, but I don't know if there's any energy left.
Yeah, I think he's looking for his second Recycler as well. He definitely... there's a lot of energy in his discard pile. The deck plays 14, but you just burn through them so quickly.
Yeah.
See 4 cards apiece from these players. Don't think I saw a switch in Andrew's hand. I think there's might be a Guzma in Brandon's as well, so this game may not go much longer.
He does have the Guzma.
Andrew.
Okay, so...
Can knock out one of the Malamars.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, and this makes it more difficult for Brandon, for sure. He needs either another Malamar or a Psychic Energy, and he could... and a double colorless, I guess. So yeah, he does need a decent amount of cards. So good eye on Mahone using that disruption ability from Marshadow Let Loose, and taking a knockout here. What does Brandon send up? I don't think his hand is very strong.
He actually only has 1 energy in his discard, I think I saw. So I don't think he can even power up the Lugia this turn unless he discards
energy on the top.
that Psychic that he just drew.
He could also retreat, like if he has a Guzma in his hand, he could retreat an energy off of the Lele into something like the Malamar and then play Guzma just to get another energy in the discard pile.
That's true. He can power up this Deoxys if he does that. With a Guzma, he can win this turn,
yeah,
like the Grubbin or the Marshadow.
Does he have one in his hand? He doesn't even need to retreat off of the Lele. I think he drew a Psychic for the turn. So if he has Guzma, he should just win the game outright.
Is that a Guzma?
I think it might be a Cynthia. They have similar like dark backgrounds. I've mistaken them for one another before. Cynthia.
It is Cynthia.
So Mahone lives to fight another day.
Another thing too, by doing this, you know, he could on the following turn use Tapu Lele's Magical Ribbon and move this 120 to the Marshadow, or he could find like a stretcher for a Tapu Koko and Flying Flip to clean up this Lugia. So, you know, not knocking something out this turn, but it's, you know, he's getting very close.
Yeah. I maybe would have liked to have seen him not use Psychic Recharge yet. Put the Psychic Energy back into the deck. See if you draw double colorless plus Marshadow to get an attachment. But I guess he just wanted the guaranteed attachment on the Deoxys, which makes sense. Like you said, hitting for 120 should almost certainly seal up the game since there's that Marshadow in play from Andrew.
There is a Koko in his deck still. I think he's eyeing that Oranguru, actually.
Okay, maybe he wants to be able to draw cards if he can thin his hand down.
I don't see a lot of cards he can burn this turn. I see like a Shrine, at least one Shrine, another Energy. But it's
Oranguru's Psychic is a solid attack as well against Shining Lugia. It does 60 plus 20 more for each energy attached, so it also could hit for 120. Maybe that's something he's considering. Maybe he's just wanting to burn cards out of his deck, though. Here we go.
Here we go with the Deoxys.
120 damage. I think if you're Andrew, you have to be looking up a way to get rid of that Lele on Brandon's bench. He's used a lot of resources. That's it.
Concedes.
Andrew doesn't have anything. The second recycler was in the prize cards. He just ran out of options, I think, at the end of that game. Well played by both players, but Brandon Johnson comes out victorious in round 10 here.